Today we're going to be going over our prepper pantry. You guys stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This is our first time meeting. My name is Justin. If you're coming back, welcome. If you find value in today's content, hit that like button. And if you want preparedness and prepping tips on a regular basis, at least weekly, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get going. Let's briefly talk about why food is so important. Stick around to the end of the video. We'll give you specific tips on how to get started or how to improve your stockpile. And we'll also take a look at our food pantry. All right, time for a little honesty. My least favorite part of prepping is food, okay? It's just not as fun to me as the rest of it. It's super important, and I understand that. You can't eat a compass or a new sling bag or a bug out bag, but you have to have food to survive, and so does the rest of your family. So I realize it's important. It's just the least fun for me. And depending on how much of a stockpile you want to have, it can get expensive long term, but there are steps you can take today that are relatively inexpensive. So let's get started. Why is it important? Why is preparedness and prepping important? We're what-if thinkers. There are a lot of things that can happen with the food supply and your ability to get food. So what having a food storage system does for us, it gives us peace of mind and security. And that is the general reason most preppers prepare. Not because we're conspiracy theorists, but because we want to be able to take care of our own and be self-reliant. Reason number two, food's important. You do not want to be doing any type of post-disaster shopping. So most grocery stores and convenience stores have about 3 days of food on hand. Something bad happens if that store's not destroyed, on fire, locked up, already being looted, or already has empty shelves. That is the last place you want to be, is with everybody else in a panic buying, putting yourself at risk for violence and harm. We just want to stay out of that situation if we can. So not having to go out after a disaster for all those reasons we just listed. Reason number three why food's important. Increasing prices. So over the last decade or two, food prices have gone up. Some food prices more than others. With the increase in the minimum wage, which is probably coming down the pike, that's going to change the way a lot of farmers and food growers are able to employ workers. So they're going to have to pass that cost on to consumers. So that's going to mean your milk is going to cost more. Your food is going to cost more. So from a cost effectiveness standpoint, it makes sense to purchase foods now for later that are cheaper now than they are going to be later. Next reason is supply and demand. If 2020 and so far 2021 have taught us anything, is that there's a huge supply and demand issue in our nation. So there are still items that are difficult to find in parts of this country. The kind of toilet paper you want if you don't want sandpaper. I had trouble finding Dale's sauce during the pandemic. Even when we do a regular order at Walmart, regular everyday things are always not available, like a 12-pack of Dr. Peppers. So being able to have the things you want when you want them because you already have them is much better than finding out you're not going to be able to get them. You remember the shelves early in the pandemic when you tried to go buy canned goods and what you were limited to, basically celery juice. If you can put these items in your stockpile, you're not going to have to worry about not being able to find them later. And lastly, let's talk about supply interruptions post-disaster. So fuel shortages that might affect the trucking and transportation industry, fuel prices that may prevent some trucking companies from staying in business. Obviously, they're going to have to pass those fuel prices on to grocery store chains. Those grocery store chains will then in turn pass those prices on to you, the consumer. Weather. So severe weather can impact transportation and trucking and keep things from getting from point A to point B. And then a general breakdown in city infrastructure post-disaster, whether that's an earthquake, fire, shutdowns of an interstate, large transportation incidences, things like that can prevent the trucks from actually getting that product to the store. Those are the reasons why food is one of the, if not the most important part of preparedness, even though it may not be the funnest. Budget. Start with any budget. $5, $2,000. If you've got $2,000 to go out and have a big grocery trip or buy a bunch of MREs or buy some dehydrated foods for long-term storage, that's great. But if you don't have that money to spend on that, don't be discouraged. Start where you can and be better prepared tomorrow than you are today. If you go to the grocery store next time, spend $5 additional on 3 or 4 cans of soup or a bag of rice or some pasta and spaghetti sauce. There is a way to prepare within every budget. You've just got to start. So when it comes to planning what types of food you want to have, there's kind of a few different theories about how to go about it. And eventually, if you can get around to all the theories and round out your stockpile of food preps, that's one of the best things you can do. So one type of food that you can buy is shelf-stable food. So that is food that is going to be able to sit on the shelf in a cool, dry place, which is where it needs to be stored, and it is not going to spoil for a significant and extended amount of time. So you can set it on the shelf and forget it and just check on it 5 or 10 years later, depending on how it was packaged and how it was protected. Are you going to have foods that are short-term that you need to be rotating through as part of an everyday pantry, where you go out to the garage and you get this box of pasta and you eat that for dinner, and then the next time you go to the grocery store, you purchase some more pasta to replace it into your stockpile? What types of food are you actually going to eat? Are my children, who are 7 and 3, going to eat rice and beans indefinitely if there's an HHTF event? No, they're not going to. So I have to buy things for my family that my children are going to eat, that are also within my budget, that are also easy to prepare, something else you've got to think about, and that my kids are actually going to eat. So SpaghettiOs and meatballs and boxed crackers and cereal and those types of things. So what are you actually going to eat? Because adults are finicky eaters as well. Are you going to like rice and beans every single night if you have nothing to spice it up with? No. So stocking up on soy sauce and sugar and things like that can improve the taste of your food and make your ability to survive a little more palatable. Things you eat already. So look at your menus. What do you typically have during the week over the course of a month? Let's just buy some extra of those things when we go to the grocery store. And that way, if something happens and there's a weather event over the weekend and you can't get to the grocery store, you know they're not going to have your bread and milk anyway, so why are you even going? But you've got the things that you normally prepare, that you know how to prepare, that you have the recipes for, and now, because you stockpiled them, you have the ingredients for. So purchase things that are already within your menu. So some additional guidelines you need to be thinking about with your food stockpile, guys, is going to be how to store these things safely. And the best way to go about storing food are things, like I said, that are shelf stable. So canned meats, canned vegetables, canned fruits, canned goods, peanut butter, dry cereal, rice, beans. Rice and beans, you can survive off rice and beans alone for a very long time. Nutritionally, rice and beans will feed you. Like I said, my 3 and 7-year-old are not going to eat them, and I'm not going to want to eat it every night without some awesome flavoring. But it just depends on what you're preparing for, how quickly you want to get your stockpile built up. So how much of a stockpile do you want to have? Don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning. Don't try to say I'm gonna have a 6-month stockpile of food before you've even got a week or two of food stockpiles. Start small. Start with baby steps. Set goals and reassess, and actually make that purchase when you go to the grocery store. Post-disaster, how are you going to cook this stuff? With rice and beans, you're going to need a way to heat water. Do you have electricity, or is it a grid down situation, or a power outage, or a winter storm that caused the power lines to fall down? How are you going to cook your food in a disaster situation? Do you have a camping stove that you're not using? Do you have a propane grill out back on the patio?
Hey everybody, welcome out to the garage, which typically stays cool and pretty dry, which is a good place to store food at. So I am a blue collar guy, and I'm a middle class guy, and I don't have a survival bunker that's just full of food. So we're like most families. We just try to prepare as best we can. But I wanted to show you guys one of our pantry areas. Obviously, we've got some stuff inside the house that's kind of shelf stable that we would be able to eat foods in the house as well if something happened. But this is one of our working pantries. We use food from this on a regular basis. We go to the grocery store, buy additional items, and put it out here, and then we eat it. So everything stays fresh. You rotate things from the back to the front as you use them. So let's just start at the top, and this isn't as perfect as I want it. I've got some changes that I want to make. There are some items up here that store better if you store them differently, and those are plans within my plan to improve on our plan. So let's look up top. I've got rice, and we've got beans up here as well. There's some stuff you need to do to those things to keep them fresh. And there's really no organization into this, and I'll apologize, but we do have salt and pepper. We got some cleaning products up here. We got ketchup. We've got buttermilk pancakes. We've got canned goods. We've got lots of honey, raw honey. You can see some pasta back there in the background. You see a big old jug of soy sauce, so that is going to flavor the ridiculous amounts of rice and beans we're going to have to eat if there's a disaster situation. And you also see, you're going to see some drink flavoring, so my kids just aren't going to want to drink plain water, and neither am I. Remember, I can't go to the store and buy Dr. Peppers like I like to. So being able to flavor up your survival water is something that's important. So I also have some sugar down here. Not necessarily the best way to store that. Also get something also very good to barter if you need to. So we've got dried fruits. We've got soups. Let's go down to this shelf. So we've got some crackers. We've got some things the kids are going to like to eat. We actually have some condiments that will store unopened, just in a cool, dry place. You don't necessarily have to have them in the fridge. We've got lots of flour and sugar. Like I said, those are things that could be used as barter items. A better ways to store this than the way we're storing it, because this will eventually, like this one's as hard as a rock. But we've got plenty, but it gets used because I like sugar. More things for the kids. We have iodized salt, so you may be missing some of the salt in your diet if you were in a survival situation or your diet changed. So having the iodized salt is actually something that will improve your health and keep you healthy. Going down to this level, we've got some items for the little one in our family. I like donuts too, but the evaporated milk is something that will keep for a significant amount of time, and we'll be able to give that to our youngest. Obviously, peanut butter. We've got some almond milk, and then we get into the working pantry portion where we've got potato chips and some smaller snacks for the kids. If you look down here, we got some canned goods going on, so a pretty big variety. We like having these. These things aren't going to spoil, and if they do, it's going to be a while. So just be sure you're checking dates. Lots of canned goods, soups, vegetables, fruits, things that are going to be pretty easy to make in a disaster situation. Now, one of the added benefits of canned goods is the liquid that is used in the canned goods is going to be part of your survival water supply. So be sure you check down in the descriptions for some free, useful resources for you to start or improve your prepper pantry.
Folks, that's it for today. It is never too late to begin your prepper pantry, and never too late to improve upon your stockpile with some very simple strategies. If you enjoyed today's content, be sure you hit that like button. If you would like continued content and weekly videos from Safe Prep, hit that subscribe button as well. We're on Facebook and Instagram as Safe Prep. Until next time, folks, I'm Justin. Be safe.